conservation and keeping things tight and small and not taking risk keeps us like this in our business. And if you can just take that part away, it's pretty limitless.
Welcome to Sales Assassins, the podcast that unveils the lost art of word-of-mouth marketing for professionals just like you. We cover everything from building relationships and nurturing connections to overcoming the challenges of modern marketing. You'll learn how to stand out in a crowded market, charge confidently for your services, and create an army of people recommending you without hesitation. Now, let's dive in and make you deadly effective at sales.
Welcome all you current and would-be sales assassins out there. Joe, how's it going in Alabama land?
It's good here. It's good here.
Fantastic. Something that I saw, I think from a video of yours, even way back, even before we started this show, really, I just love the concept of it. And it's this idea of really leaning into being as big as you can be, right?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming we don't mean by weight, so don't start eating. But we're talking about this concept, and I think we all need it. We all need the reminder of there's more potential in you. Be bigger out in the world, do more, and not just accumulate more and blah, 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 and all that stuff, but really to be that person, because we have that little voice. For those of us who are on this path, we have that little voice that's, you could be doing a little bit better. Dig into this concept with me on what inspired even that idea of, no, you can do more. Let's push. Let's go.
Well,
where did that come from?
And I've had several what I would call inflection points throughout my life where I was thinking where I was all it could be, and then we made a change or a different view or had some outside input, and it allowed us to see something bigger. And it wasn't that major of a change, by the way. And then when I started doing just individual coaching, and then we started our inner circle mastermind, the one thing that I noticed with almost everyone, and I think this is common for everyone, is most people see a limit around what they're capable of or what they're able to do within their business or their life. Like they feel like this is it. This is how big I can be. And what I noticed was when we started doing goal setting and I started pressing into what would be called a stretch goal or to make it bigger than they could ever imagine or whatever they would tell us, especially in the mastermind, everyone would then try to expand that. And what was interesting is kind of like the 4-minute mile. Once one of them kind of broke through, it was like, well, wait, I'm not limited by that. And I think it just takes someone else looking at it and saying it actually could be this. And I would say almost all of our clients are doing way more than they ever thought they could. And you kind of hit the nail on the head. You have that, I call it the inner litigator. You've got a litigator on your shoulder at all times saying, no, that person's not going to say yes. That's too much. That's it's like talking you out of what it is you really could be doing. And that's a survival mechanism. It's because at one point you had to actually try and stay alive. So going and doing things that had risk attached to them could cost you your life. So we're innate with what would be almost scarcity. So that scarcity, and we're all raised with, if you're raised in the United States, somewhere in your lineage, the Depression happened, and then the boomers that raised you were raised by people that came out of the actual Depression. So it's like conservation and keeping things tight and small and not taking risk keeps us like this in our business. And if you can just take that part away, it's pretty limitless. It's really, you're only constrained by what's in your mind. There's a great book out there. It's called Release Your Brakes. And it's very interesting about the psychology of how you're conditioned to do that and then how to break through that. I actually ask all of our people to, especially in our inner circle, to check that out and read it and start to think differently. So that's where it came from, and it's all psychological.
Yeah, and I think those limits do come from looking around us, right? We that's where we look first. Like we look left to right. We look around in our office, but we also just look at like, Yeah. We look around at the industry like, well, this is all they're doing. And it's okay, but that doesn't mean that's all anyone in the world is doing. And it does take that outside perspective. And I think it's okay also to kind of drop that, I don't know, maybe guilt about, oh, I should have figured this out on my own. I should have, thought bigger on my own. And no, we all need that. At whatever level we are at, we need that outside perspective that's not just, rah, you can do it, but actual concrete, no, you can do more. Here's how you can do more. And here are the steps to do it. You just need to believe it first. Let that in, that it's even possible. And then you can start taking that action towards it. Go take us through some of those. You mentioned the inflection points that happen. Walk me through those examples you're talking about.
And I want to touch on one thing you said. I've rarely seen uncoached greatness. I mean, I look around please point out to me someone that's completely uncoached, no mentor, no one, seeing their blind spots that's truly great. I've yet to see it. Maybe some of the savants in our world, but
besides me, I understand what you mean. Like the normal people.
I mean,
right.
You were, as I said, savants, you were in my top 4. Elon.
Yeah, I mean, I was born perfect, so yeah.
But yeah, I think when in retrospect, it really polarized to me. I mean, the first one that kind of was eye-opening, and I think it's probably good for people that are thinking about assassins or in assassins, is maybe when you're in that earlier stages, you only think you can do this amount or this much. So we talk a lot about even just minimums and targets and things like that. But when I was going door to door at Edward Jones 100 years ago, my mentor at the time, I was whining, of course, about how little money I was making. And he said to me something that was kind of trivial or just elementary. I don't know how to describe it, but I'd be on someone's doorstep asking for 100 shares of stock or a $5,000 bond. And he said, just add a 0. And that's the only that was the change. Just so 1,000 versus 150,000 versus 5,000. Now I didn't always get the 1,000, but then I would get 500, and I didn't always get 50,000 in a bond trade, but I'd get 30. And so if you think about it, when you're doing what you're doing, the time it takes to do that and the skill set are all the same. The only difference was the 0. And that was mind-boggling to me at the time, but it's so elementary now. Like, just ask for something bigger, like make the ask. And, I made a transition then to advisory in Merrill Lynch, and it became kind of the thing in the industry to put client minimums in place. And, at first we were told, anyone in fog a mirror. And then you've got all these accounts all over the place, and they, organizationally, they really started looking at account minimums, and we started just incrementally raising those. And then at some point, and I was doing different jobs within Merrill and running my book or whatever, but we put in, like, if I was going to be there, it had to be $2 million. And not that I'm great, it's just time wise. And then you start incrementally everyone moves up. So like even in assassins, we'll talk about, well, what's your floor and what's your ideal? Well, if my floor is, the ground and my ideal is 100, well, then how big? I'm limited. But if I start raising that, that's where I can get so much bigger than I ever thought. And it's all here. It's not a outside environment constraint or anything like that. It's all in your head. So just making that little change could dramatically change your life. I mean, and then when my kind of the last one we're living right now is when I was doing a lot of one-on-one and I started the mastermind, what we were charging for our services, I just started making that higher and delivering more. But one thing that came out of that was our immersion, and that's $120,000. And I'm like, I was bookending my pricing essentially, like what it is to get in here and then the high end. And I'm thinking, well, this, people aren't going to do this. And this is our highest close rate by a lot, which is, and then it's lower volume, but what then it showed me was like, okay, so again, you're just limiting in what you're thinking. People actually do want that value. And then looking at what we were doing in Assassins, we're thinking, we can have 20, 30 people in there. And then it's like, well, why couldn't we just have an Assassins call every day? So you can go, we have a habit of thinking we're confined. And if you can just take that step and say, okay, let's try this, you'll be shocked at what happens, because most of the constraint, if not all, is not on the other side of the table. It's in here. And that's what I preach and teach and walk. I mean, we just keep trying to expand what we're able to do. And there's, we're online right now. I mean, go online. There are people there that, they don't have as much conscious, and they're on, and they have no fear, and they put stuff out there and they make millions of dollars, and they're not even that good. It's just, their belief system is, I can do that. There's proof in the pudding. You probably know people in your community that you don't think are, brilliant, but they're crushing it. And it's because it's what limits I put here. So breaking that is critical mass. And even in Assassins, the first thing we do is mindset. And that's why. And it's the most neglected thing, because, it's not me being reactive during the day. I have to actually sit down and do something for my brain. But that's where that came from.
Going back to when you learned that concept of adding a zero, just ask for more. That goes for yourself as well. Ask more of yourself. And that's back into that mindset piece. And it's so important. You talk about devoting that time. Where can the person out there who's just, they're letting this in a little bit, they've never done it. Is it a daily thing? Is it a certain increments in their business, or where they should sit there and go, hang on, I'm really limiting myself? Is it just at times of feeling the stress?
Well, in times of stress, you'll constrict the most. So if you're highly stressed, you're going to try to preserve as much as possible. So when it talks about releasing your brakes, is just, no matter how you feel or what the environment is, have no limit in your mind. That's the starting point. But from a timing aspect, you may have existing business that you are responsible to deliver for to the client because you gave that commitment. What you need to start doing then is looking at, okay, what's the average, and then set the baseline there. Because even ethically, if I have, let's say I have a $2 million account and a $250,000 account. Well, if I'm giving them equal, is that ethical? If they're getting the exact same thing? It's technically, everybody does it, but it's technically not. So you want to kind of start raising your average first on what you're doing. And I always look at it this way. If you raise your floor where you won't go below, and that naturally should raise your ideal, and you just incrementally do this, that's how you can do it. Or you can just rip the Band-Aid off. There's two trains of thought, but most people will do better with just that incremental step in what they're doing. And you can make, it's not written in stone. You can make a business decision. If you've got someone who has potential, or that is, 4 or 5 years down the road going to be, the biggest opportunity you have to make a business decision on what it is, and you have to know what service you're committing to. For us, we want to maintain the integrity of everything we deliver because we're obsessed with our clients' results. So when we test the limits, we're looking at, does it sacrifice their results? Because that's all that matters in my business. Do my clients get the results we talk about and hit the goals we talk about and have the experience we talk about? That's it. If we don't have those things, we're out of business. So when we deliver, it's like, okay, maybe I don't have to do this. Maybe it can be delivered by someone else. And that's the other thing, is you get constrained by, I'm the only one who can do this. I'm the only one who can give this wisdom. And we all know that's not true. So you got to expand in a lot of ways. Not only are my targets bigger, but also, can I allow others to do things that they can do or should do and let go a little bit? I will tell you, one of the biggest struggles, especially in the inner circle, is the letting go, because it's my baby. And I don't want to, but if you're ever going to get as big as you dream about, you have to do that. That's a must. I'd battle that. I mean, I think I'm the greatest on the planet, but there's other greatness out there, ironically.
Weird, crazy. Yeah, but that only comes. Maybe it's side by side though. I was going to say that only comes after letting this in that, okay, I can get bigger. I can get to that next level. And then I think that falls into the next actions, right? So, okay, you believe me. Now that next action is, what can you let go of? This is how that happens. And it kind of falls into that category. But again, back to the mindset, it's got to start with first that it's even possible, that I can expand and grow.
And that comes, you don't just tell yourself it's possible, that you have to condition your mind. The litigator doesn't just shut up. It doesn't. So, I mean, we have a whole process. I mean, again, when you get started, there's a whole process of looking 10 years into the future and putting that dream on paper. And people may think that's silly, but if it's not on paper, it's not even close to real. So what does my life look like 10 years from now? Across the spectrum, life, health, family, reward, and however it rewards, all that. And then bringing that back to, okay, if that's what my dream is, what do I got to do this year? And making that actually measurable. And then dialing that down into what do I got to do right now? And then through repetition of, I mean, if you're not writing your goals down, you know, we're still as much technology as there is on the planet, we are still linked to our hand in writing. If I write on a piece of paper, it is linked to my cortex. You should be writing your goals down. And if you really want to put gas on that fire, and I thought these were silly at first, I was like, this is ridiculous. We have a process around affirmations. I mean, what you say to yourself on a regular basis is critical. The person who talks to you the most is you. So if you're saying you're not good enough and you're too small and all that loop, you can change that. That's something that you could actually do, and we encourage it. I will tell you, very few people are consistent on it, but the ones that are, there's the ones that are breaking through every barrier, because the way they talk to themselves and what they program into their mind isn't being programmed by someone else. And I don't know if you've caught this. If you let someone else program you, they're not going to program you with success and positivity. I mean,
it's certainly not in your best interest.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're going to propagate you into what they want you to do. So my belief around it is this: whatever it is you are looking at and believe you can do, and I say that in that video, look at it like this, and then just take it and go like this. That's like step one. You know, we have a fun exercise, and it's in our inner circle, where new people share their 10-year dream. Like, I have them do it, but then they share it. And like, when other people hear it's a powerful thing when I've got a big dream and you've got a big dream and we all have big dreams and we're all doing this together. Those actually then get even bigger. So that's what I love about it. And we have some big dreamers and some big people, people doing big things. So I know it's possible.
Well, and that's what's so critical about getting in the right rooms and being around the folks who are thinking this way, because even business owners at your level aren't necessarily thinking this way, thinking bigger, thinking about what's possible. So you may be playing golf with four dudes who, if you said your big 10-year goal, they'd be, what are you even talking about? And that feeds that little litigator, right? And then it's just like, oh yeah, what was I? But when you have that support, and again, it's also then the tangible, yeah, that's possible. And here's what we do. Or, it's not like you go to sleep tonight and tomorrow you're going to wake up in that, with $40 million extra. We're not saying that. It's the steps. What are we going to do with it? And I think the other aspect of that, hey, 10 years down the road, what's your ideal life, is what does that person look like? How do they walk? How do they talk to their family? How do they interact? Identifying that, and like, those are things you can start now. Oh, yeah. Okay. And that's an identity change.
Well, and the first key to success is self-ideal. How I see myself, my self-image, and what I see myself becoming. That's like in any success, you have to see yourself becoming. And a lot of people only see, like the problems that jump into their lap. Like what you're saying was, and yes, all of us deal with this. We're reactionary. So we get tunnel vision on the problem at hand, and you should focus. However, at times it's kind of like zoom in, zoom out. On that 10-year dream, I say when it's the toughest day you're having, get it out and read it. It's a stress reliever, because whatever you think is a big deal today, 10 years from now, you're going to laugh about. I mean, I'm not the first person that said that, but it's true. Like you'll look back and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was worried about that. Like that was a nothing burger, and I didn't sleep for 3 nights over it. So to have that 10-year vision or dream, it allows the things of today, my problems of today, to be smaller. And that gets me to get through them faster, because I'm not doting on them and looping in my mind how bad it's going to be. Because if you looked back 10 years ago from where you are today and took stock of all the changes and where you were and what you were doing and how you are now, I guarantee you 10 years ago, you had no concept of where you are. So I like having that dream out there, because now I'm working towards that. I have to hold myself to a standard. I have to hit targets. It's all the levers of performance to hit something big. And it's not a 10-year plan, by the way. It's a 10-year dream. So it's not like sit down and do a business plan around it. It's what I'm going to dream for a minute. The other interesting thing that we do is we have them do an obituary. And that's how you're going to be remembered. And if those in tandem are pretty powerful, because now whoever's going to read my eulogy might be you, Jason. It's like a lottery, but whoever reads it, like what I once said about me when I'm gone, now I got to live to that standard, and I have a dream, and that in tandem is like, okay, now I got something to hold myself to and something to aspire to. It's pretty powerful. And it takes your brain and makes it like, a different animal, because what you were focused on and what you're focused on now. That's what I've witnessed. I would like to see more discipline in my own life and everyone else's that I'm involved with, because it's the easiest thing to neglect. Because sometimes I just get up and get to work, or I just go to bed because I'm exhausted. But consistency, not every day, but consistency is key.
Yeah, because that is the piece, and sometimes it does. It comes into scheduling that in your day, and I think it's that, and it's instead of, oh my gosh, I'm wiped, I just need to think about nothing right now, and I need to, flip on Netflix, and, I understand that feeling, but when you can fight through that feeling and instead, okay, fine, I'll let myself do that, but in 30 minutes, because for the next 30 minutes first, I'm going to dig into this 10 years and visualize that and I promise you go through that, and it's a little fight in the beginning, but then you don't end up turning on Netflix and you go to bed if you're that exhausted, or
Correct.
And when you can shift your identity, there's just something amazing that can happen when it's happened recently for me. Negative stuff going on, and man, I flipped a switch, and there's no decision. Oh, am I going to do this? Am I going to do it? No, it's amazing what happens when you do flip that.
Agreed. And that's what the people that exceed, that go above mediocre, it's the ones that do it when they don't feel like it. So congrats on doing that. Yeah. Awesome.
Fantastic. I hope we've shaken some people loose, and
hopefully see the world bigger. That's right. What I can say. All right, man.
Perfect. All right. We'll see you all next time. In a sea of endless digital noise, your ability to connect and generate authentic word of mouth is your deadliest weapon. Whether you're just starting out or you're looking to break through to the next level, the principles we discuss here are your blueprint for success. It's all about being the most trusted and valued in your network. To maximize what you've learned today, visit joinsalesassassins.com to see how you can become a true sales assassin in your industry. Until next time, keep sharpening your skills, expanding your network, and remember, in the world of sales, the true assassins strike silently but effectively by doing what nobody sees coming, building genuine connections and powerful relationships. Stay deadly, stay authentic, and we'll see you on the next episode of Sales Assassins.
This show is powered by Media Leads. To get your next great podcast produced, go to MediaLeadsCo.com.